Good morning. And I wanted to tell folks who might be viewing this how wonderful it is that Barbara Weltman and I are into our 17th year of live streaming small business information. It's been a good run, Barbara, I think.
I should say we're still here.
We are still here and we're still doing it. And actually, to that point, probably energized every day that we get up to get going and get it going. And a good segue into your big ideas for small business today was a really interesting one, and I wish you would elaborate on it. Beware of scam charitable LLCs.
Yeah, the IRS is warning that these companies posing as charitable organizations, and they're using an LLC format, and they look like they're real, but they're not. So just beware.
I will have to tell folks, Dreaming with Entrepreneurs LLC is real.
Yeah, sure. LLCs are popular, but you just have to watch.
And to that point, I don't know if this exactly relates to a conversation you and I had a year ago, but I was reading this as an ownership deadline impacting potentially 32.6 million businesses to the Treasury. And if they don't comply, they are subject to a $10,000 fine.
Well, the good news is that a district court in Texas at the beginning of December imposed a national preliminary injunction. And so right now that obligation is on hold for everybody in the country. Going forward, there's bills in Congress to repeal it, to extend the effective date. So you don't have, and even if you go to the Treasury, if you go to FinCEN, there's a big note saying that registration is voluntary at this time. So nothing that you have to do right now.
You scared me last year when you told me I had to do it this year.
Well, I actually did it in November because, the deadline was coming up. And if you had an LLC, if you had a corporation, C or S corporation, it applied to you if you're a small business. And I don't know what the future will be. But so far, we're in a holding pattern.
I also read a headline
and then just for people listening, that's beneficial ownership information reporting.
I also read a headline last week that the SBA was easing their 504 loan refinancing.
Yeah, I haven't dug deep in that, but anything that they can do that's great.
And this year, 2025 will be the first year that a minimum wage of $15 is realized. Is that correct? Or maybe there's some other states that have more than $15.
Some places have more. It just depends on where you are. The federal minimum wage rate, which applies in a number of states, has not gone up, and that's still $7-something an hour. But in California, in the franchises, it's $20 an hour.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and this owner of 2 McDonald's franchises has to close. He can't stay in business.
Oh, wow.
So 2 McDonald's closing.
That's
and the other thing for for his other units, he had to cut back hours and eliminate overtime. So it just penalized the workers. They didn't come out ahead.
And the fast food world is a very complex, difficult world to operate in the first place, and
the margins are like none. So
crazy. But there's another U.S. Chamber of Commerce did a recent study saying that 72% of small businesses are optimistic about revenue growth for 2025. That's a great piece of information.
Yes. For the first, it's really it's been a complete turnaround from pessimism, if you will, to that's been going on for several years to optimism. And I think it has to do a lot with the change in administration and the idea that maybe we'll have less regulation and more opportunity.
And as you and I have discussed over the years, probably the greatest challenge facing small businesses is the regulations.
Absolutely.
And wow, well, let's segue into another conversation. Last year, one of the most popular conversations you and I had, based upon response and how many people actually saw it, was your prediction or things that small businesses need to be concerned about for 2025. What are the major issues confronting? And I that will also tie it. Hold up a copy of your book.
I will do that. I think talking about regulation, I think that we will see a rollback of a lot of regulations. A number of final regulations that were issued by a Department of Labor and other departments were temporarily blocked by courts and so, for example, one of the regulations was a ban on non-disclosure agreements for most employees, and then that was put on hold. And I think that with the new administration, I think that will be rolled back. Another regulation had to do with an increase in the threshold for non-exempt workers for purposes of overtime pay. Are you subject to overtime pay? You're not if you're an exempt worker, but you had to have a certain salary. They increased the salary. I think that's also been halted for the moment, and that I think will be rolled back. So I think we're going to see a reduction in some of the more onerous regulations. That, when I say onerous, I mean it's hard for small businesses to comply, to meet all of these challenges that the regulations impose in terms of compliance, in terms of outlays, in terms of everything. So I think we're going to see a little relief come on the regulatory front. Plus, we had the Supreme Court decision in June, which said that it reversed what was called the Chevron doctrine, which was around for nearly 40 years, which basically gave administrative bodies like the agencies authority to make law. And the Supreme Court said no. And so I think we're going to see fewer regulations being promulgated because these agencies don't have the authority to make law unless Congress says, okay, you decide. But basically, if interpretations and such.
Well, I'm really going to be very, very interested to see how things fold out as far as Congress goes this year. I have always said in the past that I have been very, very apolitical for the last 20 years. And my position has been, I want the individual who will do the most for business. That was the one that I wanted. The politics, I didn't want to get into the way. Now, right now, with Trump and with Elon Musk, his sidekick, we've got two businessmen, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how things how they fold out.
Right.
Well, I'm glad that I'm 75 years old and I've been in business for 53 years. I'm real concerned about younger folks and the future and what can be put in place now that will be beneficial for the future. But you and I 4 years ago, almost 5 now, with the way that the pandemic changed how we do business, absolutely changed, some for the good, some for the bad. And comment about that, about things that have happened during the pandemic and where we are today based upon the situation and business and where we are.
Well, I think one of the things that happened during the pandemic was everybody working from home, and then people got used to it and they want to continue that. And there's been a turnaround in corporations now wanting people back in the workplace, either 100% or some hybrid arrangements where they're back a couple of days a week or a certain amount of time per month. And I think that we're going in that direction, that we're going to have all hands on deck. And I don't think people are going to be working from home as much when they work for bigger companies. Now, with that said, I think small businesses, this is an advantage for small businesses to offer this flexibility. This is a no-cost benefit that small businesses can offer and employees seem to like. And I think that's something that may continue in small businesses. They don't have to have as much, they don't have to pay rent for as much space, and they can get things done with people off site. And because it's, oversight in small businesses is easier because you're not dealing with, faceless people, everybody. And I think it's more manageable. So I think we're going to see a continuance for small business to allow people to work remotely, more so than larger corporations.
Well, and the greatest challenge to small businesses in the last 10 years has been how technology has changed how we do business, and technology really has been damaging to the Main Street small business folks. Because
I don't agree. I don't think it's been damaging. I think it's been extremely helpful in a lot of ways. A lot of technology has enabled small businesses to work more efficiently with less money. I mean, really. So I
meant
think
in terms of,
going forward, AI, I think is going to be a big help for small business. And I think we're going to see more adoption. Most small business, I shouldn't say most, but the majority of small businesses have already started in a way to use some form of AI in some aspect. And I think we're just going to see that growing. I think that's what's going to happen in 2025. More adoption of AI related technology, whether it's for customer service or for accounting or marketing. I think we're going to just see that kind of thing go.
I've run into some really bad situations personally with AI and customer care. It all boils down to how much are you going? Do you put it all over to AI? Do you do a total transition and take humans out of the customer care formula? That's one thing that we're seeing where that shakeout's going to be. But I have found that companies that are using, I know they're using AI as they're dealing with me as a customer, how much they empower the agent to make a decision. Now, AI is going to bring the right questions, the right scripting to the conversation, but unless you empower your agents to make decisions.
I understand. It has to be, the bottom line is you have to be smart about this. You can't just do this wholesale. You have to kind of really make decisions along the way to make it effective. But again, that's something that I think will be coming in 2025. And another thing I think that's coming in 2025, and we have to watch this, is more use in small businesses with digital assets, Bitcoin and other things. I think, many businesses are accepting it. And I think as the government kind of figures out how to regulate, handle, if you will, the digital assets. And this is a big aspect. That's why all the tech people are going to see President-elect Trump, because they want to make sure that this is all going to be handled well. And tech.
Well, he as I understand, he's heavily vested in
all of this.
Yes.
So I think that's another change.
Well, Go on, I'm sorry.
I was going to say another change that we have to watch for in 2025 has to do with taxes. And I'll hold up my book now, which is this is the J.K. Lasser Small Business Taxes 2025 for the 2024 return. and tax planning for 2025. Many, all of the, not many, but not all, but many of the provisions from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 are set to expire at the end of 2025. And so look to see extensions or changes made so that we are set going forward after 2025, or take advantage of expiring provisions. So, that may go away in 2025. But one of the biggies on the table has to do, for small business, has to do with the qualified business income deduction, the 20% deduction for owners of pass-through entities. That's set to expire at the end of 2025. And there have been proposals to let it expire, to make it permanent, to just extend it, or to change it. And I'm kind of in favor of changing it in a lot of ways to make it simpler, easier, and make it permanent. Because if we don't have it, it just means, let me take a step back. The purpose of the qualified business income deduction is to make it a little fairer when it comes to the tax rate on profits of owners of pass-through entities versus C corporations that currently pay a 21% tax rate. So with the 20% deduction, which is a personal deduction based on business income, it brings down the tax rate that you pay on your share of business profits. And right now it's pretty complicated. If you do well, you can lose the deduction entirely, or you're in a certain business, you could lose the deduction. So I think that I would urge Congress to make the deduction simpler so everybody can kind of grasp it, and make it permanent. That if we're going to have a low corporate tax rate, we need a lower rate on individuals.
When's
owners of pass-through entities.
Is Congress going to call you to testify, to share your intellectual property about small business?
No, I don't think so. Although, I do participate in a bi-monthly forum that involves the small business and entrepreneurship section of the IRS. And so I kind of get a lot of the inside info on that and what's going on, and they get to hear from people in the forum our questions and concerns and stuff. So it's interesting.
How many? Wow, that's not the best way to. I like to share with folks how I get the most out of reading your book, because I'm not a tax professional by any stretch of the imagination. But I want to learn as much as I can. And you told me to do something about 6 years ago, and I did it, and it was a great exercise. You told me to purchase some software, very easy, and it's not that expensive, to go and do my tax return. And I did it. That was not going to be my official return, but what it did, I learned more about my business by going line by line and filling that out. And when I went to my CPA that year, I gave him what I had done, and I was looking for him then to audit what I had done to make sure it's in my best interest in everything. And he only charged me an hourly rate to do that, as opposed to a flat rate, a much more expensive rate to do my return. So it was a great exercise. Now, also too, I tell folks that, and I'll have to get one because I don't have one by my side yet, that when I've got some spare time and doing something, I pick it up and I just open the book, any page. And while I read, and I learn something new every single time that I open the book up and do that. And I also like to, I go to your index first, so that I see the topics. And if somebody really wants to get some information, that's the way to do it, is go to the index, see where you're talking about a certain topic, then go to the page. Now, when they get to that page, not only do you just provide information, but many times you have a case study and a practical application so that people can understand it. And I am sure that a tax professional, I mean, they grab your book for different reasons than an individual like myself who just wants to learn. And
well, I've always said it's so important for small business owners to understand taxes. Now, it's a dreaded topic for many people. They don't want to know about it. They don't want to deal with it, and they often pawn it off onto a CPA or a bookkeeper or somebody outside, and they don't know, they don't deal with it. But that's really not a good way to run a business, because you have to make, as the business owner, you have to make tax savvy decisions. In other words, should you buy or lease equipment? And you have to understand what the ramifications are. Well, what is this going to cost? How much is it going to cost me if I do this? Or how much is it going to cost me tax-wise if I do that? And that factors into your business decision making. And if you don't understand that, then you're really missing out. You're just kind of going by the seat of your pants and not really making.
And to that point, we indeed put faith and trust in our CPAs to make those decisions for us. That's why we pick certain folks. But it's very, very important to be able to have an interchange of discussion of.
Well, that's true. And think about how much hourly rates you're going to save if you come with informed questions. Where you really know specific, you want to know a specific answer to a question rather than just just sitting around and having the clock go by.
Okay, so is there anything special that you would like to talk about with Small Business Taxes 2025? Okay, I have to ask you this question. How many consecutive years, have you published this book?
I lost track. I think this is 28. I think this is year 28.
It's got to be close to that, because every time I ask you, it seems to be increasing. So you spend, you're going to work already for next year's book.
Well, actually, I'm working on we publish a free supplement in February, and I'm working on that because we have to update, because the book closes at the beginning of October. That's when it goes to print. And so between October and February, things happen. And so I have to deal with changes that happen in the interim.
And I also have to share a wonderful experience I had with you during the pandemic. It actually was in the very beginning of the pandemic. You had published a book that we hadn't even discussed that you were going to be doing it, and I got a copy of the book, and I found it was the book where you had a lot of the checklists.
The home business book.
Home business.
Yes.
And the timing of it came out, and that was the first time that it had Barbara Weltman JD designation in the book. But it was a wonderful, wonderful book because the checklist alone, if an individual just takes the list that you had in the book and say, "Wow, did I do that?" It was a wonderful thing, and you surprised me with that. I didn't even know you were doing it, and I think it was just kind of by accident that I found the book. But have you done well, is that book still available?
Yeah, it's still available on Amazon, sure, and it's not out of date because basics don't change.
It will never go out of date. And probably with the so many folks who left the office, came home, stayed at home, started a business, and I can do that in my home, and it becomes even a more valuable tool. It should be a necessary, mandatory item that folks buy. Well, it's for their own good, because they see you did your homework on it and gave one. I think you had about 25 different lists in that book.
Not quite. I think it was one per chapter, so maybe like it was 10 or something.
Wow.
But each one was
like
expensive.
20. It seems like 20.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful experience. What as we conclude our conversation today, what are the three things that you think businesses ought to focus most on for 2025?
I think that businesses should be focused most on their employees. Their employees are the biggest asset of a business. They may be a cost, but don't look at them as an expense. Look at them as an asset. And what can you do to attract and retain good employees? So that might be adjusting your benefits, adjusting your policies, and showing appreciation and gratitude.
Well, let me make a comment on that I just learned today. Amazon has a very, very large presence in Cincinnati. They have a huge warehouse and lots of planes going. They're the busiest airline going in and out of Cincinnati CBG. But I just learned today, they built adjacent to their warehouse space housing that was intended for people that worked at Amazon. I never knew that. And why, if larger companies are doing things like that, how wonderful that is as a benefit.
Wow.
Well, I guess it kind of works against the argument of working in your home or out of your home if your home is just 100 yards away.
Right. But but more to the point of helping your employees. I mean, I think there are an increasing number of benefits that first of all, state law may be requiring you to provide many new benefits. And so you have to check on state law what you have to do for your employees in terms of, paid leave for this and that. Also, new opportunities like in healthcare, like what kind of coverage you're going to provide for your employees. There are so many choices, and retirement savings to help them with their finances. I think businesses have to, kind of look at this. It's no longer, the paycheck is just not the be all and end all.
Help me to eliminate some confusion I've always had about the restaurant industry and tipping and taxing. Please explain that to me and what's going on, because they didn't make, I think some major changes were made in 2024.
No, the idea, no, the proposals, but tips are taxable income, and employees are supposed to report their tips to their employer. It's subject to FICA. So if it's not withheld from pay, you have to deal with it yourself and such. And so nothing has happened yet, but there are proposals to make tips tax-free. Now, with that said, in reality, we know that many people don't report their tips, and so they've been tax-free all along.
I thought there was some confusion. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was some confusion about the owners able to take all those taxes and put them in a pool and then distribute the pool against their hourly wage.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll pass on that.
I
may
know
be right, and I just don't know what you're talking about. But yeah.
Okay, I better check that out then.
No, that's fine.
Well, we only want to give good information to.
Right.
Okay, and technology.
Technology. Yep.
Talk about technology and how it needs to play into business as we move forward.
Yeah, you can't avoid it. You can't not use it, and I think you need to figure out how to best use it. So, for example, let's say you have a boutique, a retail store. How can you use technology to enhance the customer experience? So one way, some stores, they enable their salespeople to walk around with a handheld device, and they can check you out on the floor. You don't have to go to a cash register anymore. So, and that's like a simple thing. Another way is with virtual reality and such, so that customers can visualize with the assistance of a headset and this technology to picture the furniture in their room or the clothing on their body, and just, so those kinds of things are they're out there, they're available, and it's just how you're going to implement them in your business.
And I am, as a marketing person, marketing and salesperson, which is my narrow frame of reference in the world. I am fearful. Well, not fearful. I am concerned about how AI is being overlaid into marketing and sales, and it's frightening. I've had some real serious discussions with my local Better Business Bureau about that, and the challenges that they're seeing because of it, and it's going to be an interesting shakeout how that all happens. Technology, you must embrace it to increase efficiency. You have to embrace it to increase efficiency, and
that's it. You have to do it.
So, any parting message that you would like to leave with us today?
No, just that as the NFIB's survey showed increase in optimism, I'm very optimistic going forward.
And one thing that I will tell folks who are viewing, make sure you read Barbara's Big Ideas for Small Business. She publishes it 365 days a year, because she reminds you when taxes are due. you do that religiously. That your taxes are due today, and you better get them done. Well, thank you, Barbara, for once again. It's always a treat and a pleasure for me to have a conversation with you. And we on the video side of things, you and I have reached. We've reached 3 or 4 million people over the years, and when you multiply, and you've done it twice that with all the things that you do. So we talk to a lot of people about business information, and it's been a real joy for me, and thank you for the time that you share with me on that.
And Happy New Year to you.
And to you too.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.